Ronaldinho Gaúcho, one of the most iconic football legends of all time, walked into one of the most expensive restaurants in Miami and was treated like a nobody. No cameras, no entourage, just him, wearing a simple hoodie, a cap covering part of his face, black shorts and worn-out sneakers. No one recognized him. Or if they did, they didn't care. He wasn't wearing a Rolex. He wasn't loud. He wasn't trying to be seen. He just quietly pushed open the heavy glass door of Maison Coral, a restaurant where celebrities dined, hedge fund managers closed deals, and dinner bills regularly hit 4 digits. The maître d' gave him a glance, just one, then furrowed his brow and went back to adjusting silverware. Ronaldinho nodded politely, still smiling, but no one greeted him. No one offered a menu. The room was full of elegance, soft jazz playing through hidden speakers, candlelight flickering on wine glasses, and tables covered in imported linen. And in the middle of it all walked a man who looked like he'd just gotten off a 5-hour flight from somewhere humid. To them he looked lost, but he wasn't. He knew exactly where he was. What they didn't know was that this man, quiet, smiling, alone, had more influence than anyone in that room. And tonight, he wasn't there to eat. He was there to test them, and by the end of the night said they would all fail. Before we continue, if this kind of story makes you reflect, if you believe the way we treat people matters more than how they look, hit subscribe now. Because on this channel we don't just tell stories, we reveal character. Now let's get back to what really happened that night. Ronaldinho didn't wait to be seated. He simply walked toward the bar with the same calm, almost childlike curiosity he always carried, like someone who found beauty in the details no one else noticed. He admired the decor, the artwork, the golden light fixtures that glowed like soft fire above the marble floor. Behind the counter stood Samantha, early 30s, blonde, thin, sharp cheekbones and sharper judgment. She had worked at Maison Coral for nearly 5 years, knew the names of every regular, memorized the wine list by heart. She didn't smile when she saw him, just pressed her lips into a forced curve and locked eyes with his hoodie. "Good evening, sir," she said, her tone polished but cold. "Are you sure you want to dine here? Not welcome, not do you have a reservation, but are you sure?" Ronaldinho chuckled softly. Yes. I heard this place is good. Wanted to try it." Samantha looked him over from head to toe. Cotton t-shirt, baseball cap, Brazilian accent. In her mind, he wasn't a guest. He was an inconvenience, someone who would probably ask for the cheapest dish, leave no tip, and bring down the image of the place. She made a quick decision, not based on who he was, but what he looked like. And that decision would come back to haunt her. Because what Samantha didn't know is that tonight she wasn't just serving food, she was about to serve herself, a full plate of regret. Samantha didn't move right away. She stood behind the bar for a moment, almost hoping he'd turn around and leave on his own, but he didn't. So she picked up a leather-bound menu, turned on her heels, and walked ahead with the kind of poise only years of forced politeness could build. But when she stopped at a table, she didn't choose one with a view. She didn't guide him to the center of the room. She took him to the far corner, near the swinging kitchen door, a place where the smell of oil and clanging pans overpowered the soft music playing from hidden speakers. "You can sit here," she said. Then, as she handed him the menu with a passive-aggressive flick of the wrist, she added, "Just so you know, sir, this is a fine dining restaurant. Our dishes are quite expensive." Her voice was honey-coated poison. It wasn't advice. It was a warning. Ronaldinho looked up and smiled gently. "That's all right. I'm curious to try." No defensiveness. No hesitation. She blinked. Most people would have gotten offended or flustered. He didn't even flinch, and that smile, it wasn't cocky, it wasn't sarcastic, it was peaceful, which only made her more irritated. She thought she was in control, but she had no idea. She was about to become the lesson. As Ronaldinho settled into his seat, the sounds around him sharpened. The clinking of silverware, the low hum of jazz, the sharp hiss of oil behind the kitchen door, and whispers, soft at first, but growing. "He doesn't look like he belongs here. Did he wander in from the street? Maybe he's someone's assistant or driver." Samantha walked past him twice without making eye contact. She took the wine order from a man in a tuxedo, laughed with a woman wearing a pearl necklace. But Ronaldinho, invisible. To them, he was an odd interruption in their curated world of status and sparkle. At a nearby table, a woman leaned into her husband and whispered, "Look where they sat him, right by the kitchen." The man glanced over and replied, "He's been there for 15 minutes, no water, no bread, nothing." Meanwhile, back at the bar, Samantha smirked and whispered to another waiter, "This guy's gonna ask for tap water and disappear before he even sees the price of the steak." The other waiter shrugged, uninterested, but Jake, the new guy, kept glancing at the table. Something felt off. Not about the man, about how everyone was reacting to him. Ronaldinho hadn't done a single thing wrong. He sat there with his fingers laced calmly, eyes scanning the artwork, the chandelier, the ambience. Like he'd been here 100 times. Like he owned the place. And the calm in his eyes. It didn't make him look weak. It made everyone else look guilty. A few minutes passed. Samantha returned to the table, posture tall, voice smooth, eyes sharp. She stopped just short of the table, tilted the menu ever so slightly toward him and said, "Do you need help understanding the menu, sir?" Ronaldinho looked up with that same relaxed smile. "Nah, I'm just looking. But if you have a recommendation..." She seized the opportunity. "Well," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "our house specialty is the filet mignon à la Rossini. It's $320. She held the price in the air like a challenge, a bait. She expected hesitation, a chuckle, maybe even a quick glance at the cheaper options. But Ronaldinho, he didn't even blink. "Sounds good. I'll take that." Silence. Samantha's face twitched for a second, a micro-expression she couldn't hide. "You're sure?" "Absolutely. I want to try the best you've got." It was the kind of line most men would use to impress a date, but he said it with the tone of someone ordering coffee, calm, polite, unbothered. Samantha walked away with stiff steps and muttered under her breath, "He's bluffing. Wait till he sees the bill." But something was starting to shift. Jake watched from the bar, eyebrows raised. Ronaldinho wasn't nervous. He wasn't acting. He was just there. And that's what was starting to make people curious. Who sits in a place like this, dressed like that, and acts like they belong? Samantha passed by Ronaldinho's table again, but didn't stop. Not to offer water, not to ask how he was. Nothing. She glided past like he wasn't even there, prioritizing the regulars, the loud laughers with gold watches, the women clinking crystal glasses. But her avoidance was no longer invisible. At the next table over, a woman in a navy dress leaned toward her husband. She hasn't said a word to him since he ordered. And look, he's been waiting this whole time. Still no drink, no check-in, nothing. The husband glanced over. Ronaldinho sat there, hands clasped loosely on the table, smiling. "He doesn't even look annoyed," the man said. "That's kind of impressive." Meanwhile, back at the bar, Samantha scoffed again. "I give it 10 more minutes. He'll panic and ask to cancel the order." But Jake didn't laugh. He was still watching the man in the corner. The way he sat, the way he looked around, not judging, not insecure, just observing. "Who do you think he is?" Jake finally asked. Samantha rolled her eyes. "No one. Just another guy pretending to be rich." Jake frowned. "I'm not so sure. That smile, I've seen that somewhere before." Samantha shrugged him off. But Jake couldn't stop staring. Something about the man felt bigger than the room. The kitchen doors swung open. The sizzling stopped. The murmurs hushed. Samantha stepped out, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. In her hands, a silver tray, polished to perfection. She wasn't just delivering a meal. She was making a statement. Heads turned as she crossed the room. She reached Ronaldinho's table, placed the tray down with a bit too much flair and said, just loud enough for several tables to hear, "Your filet mignon à la Rossini, sir. $320. I hope it's up to your standards." A few guests glanced over. Some smirked. Ronaldinho looked up slowly, smiled as always, and replied, "Smells amazing. Thanks." Samantha wasn't done. She leaned in, still loud. "It's made with foie gras and black truffles. Imported. It's a dish for people with a refined palate. Her tone danced between sarcasm and superiority, but Ronaldinho didn't take the bait. He nodded politely. Appreciate that. I like trying new things. He picked up his fork and knife, cut a small piece, took a bite, closed his eyes, chewed slowly, smiled like he was eating at home. Nearby, the businesswoman Clarissa muttered to her husband, "He's more respectful than she is, and she's the one getting paid to serve him." Samantha walked away frustrated, but she could feel it. The room was starting to turn. If you're still watching, you already know this isn't just about food. Hit subscribe, because stories like this, they stay with you. Jake couldn't stop watching him. Something didn't add up. The clothes, the calm, the quiet confidence, the way he was completely unaffected by the cold treatment, the stares, the whispers. He's not just some guy, Jake thought. There's something about the way he holds himself. Back at the table, Ronaldinho took another bite, eyes still relaxed, back straight. Not a care in the world. At the far end of the restaurant, a Brazilian couple exchanged glances. The woman whispered in Portuguese, "Eu acho que é ele." Her husband pulled out his phone under the table, a quick Google search. Scroll. "Ronaldinho Gaúcho," he mouthed. Her eyes widened. At another table, a man in his 60s narrowed his eyes. "I've seen him before," he muttered. "That smile, I know that smile." Word began to spread, subtle glances, discreet whispers. One by one, people started leaning in, pointing, tapping their phones. Jake finally turned to Samantha. "Do you know who that is?" She stiffened. "What are you talking about?" Jake leaned in. "They're saying it's Ronaldinho. The Ronaldinho." Samantha's face went pale. "That can't be." But her voice cracked. Because in her gut, she already knew. And just then, the manager's office door creaked open. The thick wooden door to the manager's office creaked open. Mr. Thompson stepped out, tall, suited, serious. His expression, controlled panic. He walked briskly, eyes locked on one man only. Guests turned as he passed. Waiters froze in place. Samantha. Her legs felt like concrete. She followed him with her eyes, praying it was all a misunderstanding. But deep down, she knew. He didn't stop to ask questions, didn't check the reservations, didn't hesitate. Mr. Thompson walked straight to the man in the hoodie, who sat calmly, still eating, still smiling. He stopped by the table, placed one hand over his heart, and bowed slightly. "Mr. Gaúcho." Silence. You could hear a wine glass being set down 3 tables away. "It's an honor to have you here with us tonight. Please accept our sincerest apologies on behalf of the entire staff." The words hit the room like thunder. Gasps, wide eyes, a ripple of realization. It was him. Not just a man in a hoodie, not just another customer, but Ronaldinho Gaúcho, world champion, football legend, a symbol of joy, brilliance, and now, quiet dignity. And while the guests looked on in awe, only one person felt the floor collapse beneath her. Samantha. Samantha didn't move. Her feet were glued to the floor, her face drained of color, her heartbeat, loud enough to hear in her ears. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because now no one was looking at Ronaldinho. All eyes were on her, the woman who sat him by the kitchen, the woman who spoke to him like he didn't belong, the woman who mocked him, in public, with a smile on her face. An older woman in pearls shook her head slowly and whispered to her friend, "The way she treated him, it's shameful." Her friend nodded, and he didn't raise his voice once. Even the chef stood at the edge of the kitchen doorway now, drying his hands, silently watching. Mr. Thompson glanced sideways at Samantha, a single look that said everything. He didn't need to scold her. The room was already doing it. Clarissa, the businesswoman, stared at Samantha with piercing eyes, and for the first time that night, Samantha dropped her gaze. The poise was gone. The mask cracked. She wasn't proud of herself anymore. She felt exposed, not because of who he was, but because of what she had shown herself to be. Then, Ronaldinho looked up, calm as ever, still smiling. And with a gentle tone he asked the question that would change everything. Ronaldinho set his fork down, slowly. He looked up, locking eyes with Samantha. Not with anger, not with revenge. Just calm. The same calm that had followed him since the moment he walked through the door. "Can I ask you something?" he said, voice soft, eyes steady. Samantha swallowed hard. Yes, of course." She stepped forward slightly, though her knees barely obeyed. "Do you think it's right?" He paused. The entire room leaned in. "To judge someone just by how they dress?" The silence was overwhelming. Samantha's lips parted. No words came out. She tried again, but only managed a weak shake of the head. "No, sir, I didn't know who you were." Ronaldinho tilted his head gently. "You didn't have to." Another pause. "Because respect isn't something we reserve for famous people. It's for everyone." Across the room someone exhaled audibly. Another nodded, eyes low. And Samantha, now visibly shaking, lowered her head. Not out of pride, not out of defense, but out of genuine shame, because the most famous man in the room had acted like the most humble. And she, the one who thought she knew class, had just been taught what it really looked like. But Ronaldinho wasn't done yet. His message was just beginning. Ronaldinho looked around, slowly. His gaze moved from table to table, not judging, but inviting reflection. The same way he used to scan the field before a no-look pass, calm, visionary. "The world already judges too much," he said softly. "You walk down the street, and people size you up in 2 seconds. Rich, poor, worth their time, not worth it?" He shrugged lightly. "We already carry too much of that. We don't need to bring it into places like this." Some guests shifted in their seats. Some looked down. "What the world really needs," he paused, "is kindness." He looked back at Samantha. "Not for celebrities, not for athletes, not for someone with a nice watch or an expensive suit." He pointed gently at the front door. "For whoever walks through that door, no matter what they're wearing, no matter how they talk." He smiled again, "Because how you treat people says more about you than it ever will about them." Samantha covered her mouth, tears now streaming silently. Around the room, some people nodded. Others blinked slowly, processing the weight of it. The man in the hoodie had just said more with calm words than most people say with titles, money, or power. And everyone, from kitchen to corner table, knew they'd never forget that night. The night was over. The tables cleared, the candles blown out. Only the low hum of refrigeration and the clink of wine glasses being dried in the kitchen remained. Mr. Thompson had gathered the entire staff in the main dining room. Samantha stood near the back, eyes red, posture small, no longer the confident hostess who once judged a man by his shoes. Ronaldinho stood in front of them, not as a customer, but as a teacher. "I want to say something before I go," he began. "Tonight I could have walked out. I could have made a scene, called the press, taken a video, posted it online, and maybe it would have gone viral." A few heads nodded nervously. "But I didn't come here to embarrass anyone." He looked around. "I stayed because I needed to see something. I needed to see how far someone would go in judging another person without ever asking their name." He looked directly at Samantha now. "Not just for me, but for everyone who walks through those doors and doesn't fit what you're expecting." Samantha stepped forward, barely holding her tears. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I acted like I knew who mattered. But tonight, I saw how little I actually know, and I'm sorry. Truly." Ronaldinho nodded. "You're forgiven," he said, "but only if this night wasn't wasted. Because lessons mean nothing and if they don't change what comes next." Ronaldinho looked at everyone one last time, not as a celebrity, not as an idol, but as a human being who had been given more opportunities and therefore carried more responsibility. "You all work in a beautiful place," he said softly. "The floors shine, the lights sparkle, the menu looks like a piece of art." He paused. "But none of that matters. If someone walks through that door and doesn't feel welcome," his words hung in the air like gospel, "because real luxury, it's not truffles or wine pairings or crystal glasses." He smiled. "Real luxury is how you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer you. Jake, the young waiter, smiled quietly in the corner. Mr. Thompson adjusted his glasses, blinking slowly. Samantha. She had stopped crying, but only because she was listening now. Really listening. As Ronaldinho walked toward the exit, he paused beside her, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Life gives us moments to grow," he said. "This is one of yours. Use it." Then, without a single bodyguard or flash of paparazzi, he stepped outside. The Miami night air brushed past his hoodie, the city lights reflected in the glass behind him. And across the street, a woman whispered to her husband, "The world needs more people like him, people who teach with their actions." Yeah, maybe, huh? That's the real message. You don't need trophies to be great, you just need to treat people right.